We're visiting today in the home of the Frasers, and we've come to talk with Mrs. Burnett Holland. This is the WCBL roving microphone for the Oral History Project at the University at Murray State, for the Marshall County Library, and for the State Archives in Frankfort. I'm Ray Mofield, and we're very happy to be interviewing you today.
Thank you.
Do you mind telling me how old you are?
No, not a bit. 84.
84 years of age.
Yeah.
Well, that's, some would say, a ripe old age. I see you're curing some tobacco over there.
Yeah.
Is that yours?
That's Ben's.
Her son-in-law, to whom she now refers. Well, I'd like to find out all we can and establish the genealogy of your family. Tell us who was your father?
Charlie Solomon.
Charlie Solomon. And he married whom?
Dicus.
Married a Dicus. Do you know? Did you know your grandparents on your mother's side?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, you have a photograph there.
Yeah, right here of them. You see. Grandma Sally.
And
There.
did
They lived at Palma.
You were telling me a moment ago about that they donated the land. Was it for the Palma Methodist Church?
Yes, that's right. The Palma Methodist Church was founded approximately 85 years ago. And the land for the building was donated by Jack and Sally Dicus. Few of the known charter members, were this: Jack and Sally Dicus, and E.C. and Addie Dicus, and Molly Brush. Two early ministers were Reverend Levi Lee and Reverend Jack Dicus. The present building there now is about 60 years old, and the Reverend C.H. Lynn is the present minister there.
Now let me turn that over. Now that was 1955, the data that she was reading from a plate.
Yeah.
So you can add the years from 1955, which that's been, what, 28 years ago, if I'm just adding in my head there.
Yeah.
And if that were 28 years ago, that means then the Palma Methodist Church is approximately 115 years old, I guess, instead of...
This present building here now is about 60 years old. This building was.
Right.
The old one.
Well, that certainly is a delight, and you'll want to keep that as...
It was made and sold to help.
Well, now, what about the grandparents on your father's side? Do you know them or remember them?
Never knew them much. They were away from us, and I just don't know. We didn't know much about them.
There are quite a number of Solomons on the north side of the county,
Oh,
though.
yes, he had.
I remember one that ran an electric plant at Calvert.
Yes, that was his nephew.
Mm-hmm.
And that was Uncle Leander. Of course, he had brothers. That was Uncle Leander's boy. And Uncle Sam Solomon, he had brothers.
Have you studied genealogy any? Do you know where did the family come from? England, Ireland, Wales, Scotland? Or?
These Dicuses, came from Holland, Dykes.
Mm-hmm.
And a long time ago, they started out, they spelled the name D-I-C-U-S. And in time, it changed to D-Y-C-U-S in time. That's where they came from. And the Solomons, I think, originated here came here in North Carolina, from the Carolinas.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know which one.
A lot of people came to the purchase,
Mm-hmm.
of course, more came from Virginia, but many did come from either North or South Carolina.
And they first came over to Trigg County, around Cadiz in Trigg County, and then they came to this county later on when my father was about 14 years old, he said. I've heard him tell about that.
Well, when Kentucky was settled by Boone in 1769, of course, it was a territory they really didn't know the extent of. And then later when Virginia became a state, it was illegal to move west of the Tennessee River because it was an Indian reservation.
Yes.
So we didn't get to
Yes, I know.
started in Marshall County till 1818 at the very earliest.
But it was my father's wish that I be a school teacher. So
Oh, you were a school teacher.
yes, he had to send me to Bowling Green to get a teacher's certificate.
Mhm.
Went a year to Bowling Green. A teacher's wasn't like it is now, of course. Back then, you'd go and take your examination and pass, and then you'd start teaching. And I taught my first school at Stall. Up at
Stall School. Well,
Up in that neighborhood where the stalls and
that ought to ring some bells among people around in that area.
oh yeah, and it was an awful bad winter. That winter school was all
You remember what year it was?
1917,
Mhm.
and that big snow came. December the 7th.
Mm-hmm.
That big snow came on the ground, and school was so nearly out. See, it was the 7th of December. Then Mr. Arant just said, dismiss and go home. The other 3 weeks aren't going to matter because you can't get here through the snow anyway.
And I believe the snow stayed on, my dad once said, till up close to April. Wasn't it?
Yes, it stayed on all winter.
The longest snow we ever had. Were you responsible for, what all were you responsible for at that school? Were you the only teacher?
Oh, yes, at that time. And I was talking to one of my girls down at the rest home the other day that was in the room, and they were all, some of them older than I was even. And just a room full. And you had recitation benches,
Mm-hmm.
and you'd call them, they'd go down to recitation benches as you wanted them to, and they'd have a prepared lesson that they'd been asked to write and to prepare.
Mm-hmm.
And you'd call on one or two to get up and talk to the rest of the class about it. And we didn't have any problem whatsoever with discipline. It was just the nicest. This girl and I were talking about that.
You had some kind of a magic ability that impressed those kids you meant business, I guess.
Well, they were just good kids in that
Mhm.
neighborhood up there around. There was these,
You remember the names of any of them?
oh, this Verena Oakley, she was then. She's married to Agner since, and Nonnie Covington and Orr Covington, and there's a lot of them, of course. And
Do you remember who the school superintendent was?
John Arant. And, of course, Jim Solomon lived up there. He had 3 sons. Lived in that neighborhood.
Were they kin to you?
Yeah, cousins.
Did they try to take advantage of that?
No. They're just perfectly nice with me.
Good.
And believe it or not, every child in that school wanted me to go to their house and spend one night. And I did. I'd go and spend the night with them.
You ran into some, did you have to sleep on a pallet?
No.
Had a
I
bed?
was welcome anywhere where they took me. It was real nice.
Mhm.
And the next year then, they sent us away from Stall over to Pew School, where Pew is. And we had a nice school over there.
What all subjects did you have to teach?
Well, all of them. Beginning from the children had to sit on their bench too, and then you had to teach all of them. And
You had reading,
and writing and arithmetic.
and spelling.
And spelling especially.
And then after you got in the grades, say the 6th, 7th, and 8th, you taught things like health and history,
History. I always loved history.
geography.
History and geography.
Mhm.
That was one of my main subjects when I went to Bowling Green. It was a geography teacher there. Taught me how to love geography. And I just love geography.
Now,
myself.
you got your certificate when you finished the 8th grade by passing an exam at the county superintendent's office.
Yes.
And then you started to college.
Well,
Or did you-
no, I went to Bowling Green first. You didn't call it a college then. It was a teacher's.
Just a normal school.
Yeah, just a teacher's training school, They hadn't made it like it is now, Western, like Eastern, like it's over there. And, of course, I was unlucky last year, and lucky in a way too, that my baby daughter over there, Pat, lets me live with her.
Mm-hmm.
And my husband died that year
Yes.
ago, you know. So
He was a very famous and noted sports fan. I started to say basketball and football
Oh.
fan, but he was a fan of everything,
Yeah.
wasn't he?
yes, he certainly was.
And loved so much that I noticed the
Everybody
people have
loved
given
him.
a scholarship in his honor.
Yeah, they have. They've paid in or $10,000 or more. It's less. It's been in. Of course, they have it in the bank drawing interest now till they get a committee and decide who to send a scholarship. They haven't decided on that scholarship business yet, but they will soon.
Now, what did you get out and play with the children at
Oh
recess?
yes, everybody did. We played games like Wolf Over the River and pretty tough sometimes, the boys and the girls, you know. But nobody ever seemed to lose temper. It was just one of those things. We just had a good time in those days.
Did you try to raise any money for the school by doing things like having pie suppers?
Now, when I was at Palma, finally I got around from Pew to Calvary City and then to Palma. And when I was at Palma, I had a big ice cream supper. And we fixed things out in the yard. And then is when we had a girls' basketball formed. And we sold and made ice cream, and it all seems to me like I remember to buy a ball or something for the girls' basketball. And we had a nice school at Palma, finally. And it got to be a two-room school.
How did you meet your husband?
Well, he lived in Birmingham, and the funniest thing, when I finally graduated from high school in 1919, he had a cousin who would have been in our class, Irma Love, but she died that year and wasn't there. Well, her brother, Robert Love, which is gone now, but he wanted Burnett to come with him. Excuse me. He wanted Burnett to come with him too. And where they had this, they didn't have room in the school then to have a graduation like we had. And the one was 7 of us in the class. John Barnes, only boy. And they went to the Methodist church and just room across there. And that's the first time Burnett ever saw me. I was on that stage up there, and I was a prophet. Like I prophesy. I look to the future of Ruby. I look to the future of this and that. And this Irma who had died was his cousin too, of course. And that's the reason Burnett came. He came with Robert to honor that chair we had sitting with flowers in it for her.
In the vacant chair. And was he taken with you immediately?
Well, I didn't meet him then. He just saw me. He's told me about it a lot of times, but we went to Calvary City then.
Was it love at first sight?
I don't know. We went to Calvary City after that then. And Homer Ford was principal. You know Homer
Yes,
Ford?
I know Homer Ford.
Dr. Ford, of course, his father,
Mhm.
Homer. And we had different grades down there. And I taught the 5th and 6th, which I had prepared more for than anything else, and was glad I could get to teach the 5th and the 6th. So we had, at the Calvary School, we had, as I said, what was it? Was asking about the Calvary School now.
Well, you said Homer Ford was the principal.
Yeah,
and,
the principal.
And
we had plays and things down there we would put on.
I wonder if Mr. Burnett kept coming.
Not then. He didn't till we had a play one night. And he came down. And he took me out home from there in his Model T.
Oh, he had a Ford?
Oh, Model T.
He was a sport, wasn't he?
Oh, my. It was
Yeah.
something.
You consented to go.
It wasn't very far from Palma to Calvert, you know.
No,
No,
not
not very
terribly
far.
far. But it seemed farther then, I imagine, than it
Yeah.
does now. All right. How long was it before you married?
I was teaching at Benton that year. I got around, made all the rounds, and I was at Benton in the 6th and 7th grade. I know Brandon Price was in my room. I remember him well.
Judge Price's
Yes,
son. He
Judge
himself a
Price.
judge now.
Yeah, I know. I saw him not long ago over at the Girls and Boys Ranch. You know about that, I guess.
Well, he has a cottage right over here, not too
Yeah.
far.
So, anyway, we went over to...
How did he pop the question?
we went from there to Benton. And that was when we got married in 1922, when I was teaching at Benton in the 6th and 7th grades. And then I went to Birmingham to live with him. And I wasn't going to teach any more schools. I thought I'd taught enough. My father asked me, he said, you've taught and taught, you get hoarse. Said, don't teach anymore. So I got over there, and you know, they did not have a teacher for the lower room at Birmingham now. And Mr. Wiles came out there.
Looking for a teacher.
And yes, and he twisted my arm. He said, we just have to have this. There's not one anywhere. Just show up. Said, we just haven't got anybody at Birmingham. So I consented to go. Holland Lackey was staying there. Grandpa Holland's with us. Bernie's father was a good old man. George Holland, you know.
What did Mr. Burnett do to make a living? Was he a farmer?
Yes. To start with, he was. But we went on, and so at that time we had gone back to the farm, and I taught that year. So I said I wouldn't teach anymore. Just this one year, Mr. Wiles said, well, I won't teach anymore. So I didn't. And then it wasn't long till we made a journey. In that Model T, now mind you, one winter, Bernard wanted to play ball with Ty Goheen. And we went to California in that Model T, believe it or not.
That was quite a
Around
drive
these
for a
mountains,
Model
and there
T.
wasn't roads then. We're around those high mountains. Oh, wasn't that a brave something?
It certainly was. I don't know if I could have stood it or
His
not,
father,
but you did.
His father just begged him not to do it, but he wanted to. And
he wasn't easily daunted.
He usually put his foot down on things. He did it.
Yeah.
He's that kind of a man. He lived a nice long life, and had a lot of friends.
Well, he certainly did.
Basketball.
Now,
friends.
you had some children. Tell us about them before we forget it.
Sure.
You had, 2 sons, was it?
2 sons and 2 daughters. Ruth, the older daughter, lives at Brewers, married Carl Chester.
Yes.
Ruth and Carl. And Pat here married Ben Frazier. And the boys, Joe Holland lives in Charleston, West Virginia.
Now, he was the Adolph Rupp's Fabulous Five fame.
Yeah. He's a basketball player and graduated from UK in 1948, the same year she graduated from high school at Benton. See, we still lived over Benton then. And
Well, Pat was in my wife Janie's class.
yeah,
Or vice versa,
right.
whichever.
so then Charlie, the younger brother, lives in Maysville, Kentucky. And Joe has Chevrolet agency in Charleston, where he is. His son works for him.
Tell us about how the county has changed since you were growing up.
Oh, my.
Are the roads different?
Oh, yes. Burnett, one time, the first road that was built, he helped build it, that way up around somewhere up there close to Aurora, going up that way, they built a good gravel road,
Mm-hmm.
which hadn't had potholes and roads. He couldn't hardly get that Model T stick up going from Birmingham to see me at Benton.
Yeah.
Yeah, terrible roads. But they began building good roads then, and he helped build those roads. But then, later on, when we got back from California,
How long did he play baseball?
well, he played baseball all the time. We were out there and worked in the oil fields.
Mm-hmm.
That's his work. And when we came back in the spring, we went to Detroit. Made another journey. He says, you can call this a year of travel. But he didn't like Detroit. No. He didn't like Detroit at all. So his work, Chrysler's work, is too hot. So we came on back, and that's when Lewis Lilly was elected sheriff in this county, and he wanted Burnett to come back and be his deputy. And that's when Burnett was deputy sheriff for Lewis Lilly. And then the next year, Burnett ran for sheriff, and he was elected sheriff.
So he was
4
elected
years.
in his own right.
4 years.
Did he hold any other offices, elective offices in the county?
I don't think so. Just a
Of
sheriff.
course, the sheriff was
Well,
always considered to be the outstanding officer, the sheriff.
But then when we moved and made a move from Benton down here, Giversville, where we are, he was conservation officer, CO, for. And then he, what he did there? Went out on the lake and checked license and
Yes.
see that you had your license and take you into Benton and give you a fine if you didn't have them. So that was his last job, I guess, till he retired.
What was Benton like when you were growing up?
Oh,
Tell
my.
us. You remember any of the stores around the square?
Oh, yes. Old Griffith store. And,
What kind of store was Griffith?
well, it's just go in there and buy most anything. And
General store.
general store and McElrath's. See, I don't much remember much about it, but Heath's on the corner. I remember going from school up there on Heath's corner.
That was Margaret Heath's
Heath's father.
father. Yeah.
Mhm. And
And they sold, I believe I've heard Margaret say that they sold everything from nails to caskets.
yes, they sure did in that place. It was a good place to live. And of course I boarded with Sam and Della Ely a lot, and Mr. Black when I was going half years. When I teach up to Christmas, then I'd go to Benton to school.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd get my graduation all straightened out in 1990, and then I graduated from high school.
Mm-hmm. Well,
Yeah.
Benton has an old and honored tradition there in
Yes, they sure
the
are.
high school, and then all your children, I suppose, went to Benton High School.
Yes. While we lived over there then.
Now, Joe was a senior in the 43, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Benton won that year they broke the state tournament down and they had sectionals,
Yeah.
I think. And as I recall, they won that sectional tournament.
And he graduated from UK in 1948, and Pat graduated from high school at Benton in 1948.
Tell us about the first house you lived in. Did you have a wood cook stove?
No. Yes, stick wood in it. I believe, didn't we? I think. Did she say Cole's edition, Janie? And it was just it was home to us.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was home. There wasn't anything fine about it. It was just it's nice. It isn't there now, of course. And when we moved down the country, Joe Rayburn wanted to buy it from us, so we sold it. Wasn't long till that house burned. Somehow, they don't know how or what, but that house burned down.
Do you remember any unusual or funny stories about your children as they were growing up that you could tell us?
Oh, I can remember one about this Pat. She came home from school one afternoon, snow on the ground. She had white boots with little fur around the top, you know. And she came in through all that snow, just a freezing. She was something. That's why we lived over there.
Mm-hmm.
She came in, we had to warm her up, of course. And we always had a basketball goal up for the boys. They wore out a good rug in the back bedroom because they had to have the goal up on the back of the door so they could practice ball going through there.
And you permitted that to go on?
Oh, yes, we did. Of course, for Joe's sake. Of course, Charlie was a tennis player. Now, Charlie he's been in many tennis courts. And I don't know, in Maysville and where he go. We have to visit him there now. And he has 3 nice children.
Oh, very good.
One, Janie.
Do you remember anything about the shortages in World War II? I've been trying to get somebody to tell me if they remembered an A card.
I don't remember much about an A card. I guess they had them to buy things with, didn't they? They have to
Well, you had an A, B, or a C card to get gasoline. An A card, if I remember, you got 3 gallons a week.
Well, I don't remember.
Couldn't go very far,
I
could
don't
you?
remember about that. No.
You had to have a stamp to buy sugar,
Yes, I can remember that.
stamp to buy shoes, stamp to buy meat.
Yes. I've heard my oldest daughter, Ruth, talk about that. How and if anybody slips you stamps, it's just too bad you didn't get that new pair of shoes you wanted. One time she was working in Louisville, and she had some stamps and somebody slipped them from her. She didn't get that new pair of shoes she wanted. There's a time like that.
Do you remember any ghost stories?
Ghost.
Did you believe in ghosts?
No, I don't. I don't believe it in ghost
Well,
stories.
let's see. What about some old-time remedies in medicine that you remember?
Wearing aspidity around your neck.
Yeah. You remember
Don't
that?
guess Pat ever heard of tying that aspidity around your neck. Putting a flannel cloth on your breast.
Mm-hmm.
Flannel if you had a cold, choky, you know. You put that.
Mustard and goose grease.
Yeah.
Cure pneumonia and
Had to do that to keep.
everything else. Huh?
Had to do that.
Well, we're just about out of time. Can you think of any particular story you'd like to relate before we have to sign off?
Oh, going back to Pew School, the second one. Ray Faust. The Faust is this Bobby that writes for the paper, you know.
Was that her husband's father?
Uh-huh. It's her. So he lived right up on the hill from Pew School. And he went up there to eat at his lunch. And he wasn't gone very long. He came running back down the hill. And he said, "The war's over. The war's over." Said the superintendent called and said for everybody to go home and take the afternoon off celebrating the war was over. World War I was over then.
So you dismissed school?
Everybody had to that afternoon in the county. They were alerted to do it.
That was a happy occasion.
Yeah,
of
I guess
course.
so. And Ray Faust, till this day, is one of my choice people.
Yeah.
And I see Bobby every now and then, and of course, she married Ray Faust Jr.
Yes, sir. Edits the Tribune Courier in the county now.
Yeah, right.
Well, it's been a real pleasure, and I thank you for allowing me to come into your home. And Pat, your daughter,
Yeah.
You said something about she was nice to invite you, and I think
Yes.
that's true. But
To live
you know, we like interesting people in our homes.
Yeah.
Now, I have my mother-in-law in my home.
Yeah. Well, it's a pleasure to live here. And Carrie,
You people know lots of stories to tell if we just get you to tell them. See?
Carrie, the boy, the picture's up on the piano there.
Yeah.
See that?
Where did those big steer horns come from?
Do you know, Pat?
All right, there's a horse collar.
Yeah, everything in here. This is a room that.
Is that a hornet's nest?
Yeah, and here's some saws up here, things you do with, you know.
What job did you hate worst on the farm?
Oh, cutting sprouts, I guess, with my daddy to clear out that Dyker's place when we bought it. Bought about 40 acres of Grandpa Dyker's place.
You ever worm any tobacco?
Not very much.
Yeah.
Okay. You know, that time I was teaching.
Yeah, oh, that's the way you got out of it, I see.
Yeah, that's what I got out.
Well, thank you very much. I'm Ray Mofield, and we've been broadcasting, and that's the end of our broadcast for today. The program will be available in the archives in Frankfort at Murray State University and in the Marshall County Library System.